If your avoidant ex is reaching out after a long period of silence, this video is for you. Probably the most important video you'll be watching on the subject. In this video, I'm going to explain how you can make sure that this time around things could be different. How can you make sure that this time around you will finally create the relationship you deserve with this person? I call it the reset cycle. It's the idea of how can we use this breakup, how can we use this distance to finally build strong foundations for this relationship. I'll explain in this video the 3 steps that I always follow with my clients. So this is probably how you feel after this roller coaster of emotion. Perhaps you guys broke up, perhaps it's just few weeks of silence or few days of silence where your avoidant needed that space. And so you're confused. At the same time, you have a lot of hopes in the relationship because you know this relationship could make you happy. You know there's potential in this relationship. You know they experienced something different. They told you perhaps, I love you, or I never felt like this with anyone else. And throughout those days of silence, there was a little voice in your head telling you, protect yourself, disappear, move on. And maybe your friends were telling you, if he or she doesn't message you, just walk away, just move on. And them reaching out, saying, hey, how's it going? How have you been? Brings you back to this roller coaster. And I want you to help you figure out whether this is healthy, whether you can actually repair things, because it's all about repairing. If you do the same thing, if you implement and reproduce the same patterns again and again, guess what? You'll suffer the same consequences and experience this roller coaster again. So this time around, this needs to stop. And I'm going to explain you how to do it in a second. If you're watching this and wondering if you have any chance of getting back with your ex, or even if it's the right thing to do, I've created a free assessment that gives you clarity. It's based on attachment science, and it will show you whether your ex is still emotionally engaged, if reconnection is possible, and how ready you are mentally and emotionally. What you have to do is just answer a few questions, and you'll get a personalized breakdown within 2 minutes. You can find the link of this assessment below in the description. So let's discuss about avoidant attachment and how we experience intimacy, how we experience stress. When I'm under stress, when I'm triggered, when something is difficult, whether at work, with my wife, with my kids, my initial reaction, my inner child reaction is to shield myself and be on my own. That's how I cope with things. When you have an anxious attachment style, the way you cope with things is to connect with people. And that's why there's usually a clash and we have two sort of universes, two worlds that are clashing with each other when you're avoidant and anxious, is that the way we deal with our emotions, the way we soothe is very different. It's almost two opposite forces. And so the reason for an avoidant that we don't want to connect is because intimacy, is because connection, we assume, because of past experiences, that if we open up, if we disclose our vulnerability, we will suffer, we will be judged. I will be found, people will actually see who I am. And I prefer to keep things at a distance because then you don't have to know exactly who I am. So that's the logic for avoidant people. This idea of space is, again, this very strong belief around the idea, if I have a problem, I have to deal with it myself. I cannot rely on anyone. I have to do it myself. So again, something that you take from your childhood about how you were raised around autonomy. And maybe too early, in my case, of how you have a problem, I'm not around to help you, you have to deal it with yourself. And so the problem is when you're dating someone avoidant, you might end up being what I call the collateral damage of their insecurities, of their attachment wounds. Because as I said, when we're under stress, we push people away. We want to be on our own, which actually is the opposite of being in a relationship. And that's why you suffer, because you felt, must have done something wrong. What happened? I was blindsided. And they disappear for no apparent reason. Only that you maybe asked for connection, maybe you wanted to clarify the future, etc., etc. So I want to explain in this video how you can reset things in a way that this doesn't happen again. This idea of on and off, of push-pull, is something that was developed by the psychologist Milkenzer. It's also in the part of the book Attached, where we need to step away from the danger zone when we, avoidant and anxious, activate or deactivate the attachment style of our partner. So the push-pull, how does it look like? I took this from a client, recent client. He breaks up with me and messaged me 2 weeks later to go out for a drink, as if nothing happens. And it doesn't make sense, right? How, I was hurt. I was disappointed. I'm mad at you for pushing me away. And you reappear like nothing happens to see each other. And so the logic, which is not logic, but the way we think things, we see things with avoidant, as avoidant, is that we love this idea of relationship. We love this idea of being in love. But we don't want a better price for being in love because we hate intimacy, right? It's so hard. It's a sign of weakness to be vulnerable, to connect. Again, it's a risk, right? And it's a risk, right? And so we sort of put a lot of weight on this risk. And there's always this clash of like, I want to connect, but I don't want to connect too much because it's too scary. And when we are triggered, we actually deactivate our attachment style. Whenever we have self-soothe, when we sort of calm down, this is where we reactivate this attachment. So very often, when either you break up, when you give a bit of space and time to an avoidant, they will miss the relationship because the pressure of the relationship is gone. The intimacy is gone. What's left is the happy memories, is the upside of the relationship. And so if you're not aware about those triggering elements of this danger zone, what will happen is that you will re-engage, pressure, trigger your partner, they will deactivate, which actually will activate and hyperactivate your attachment, and you will pressure them, and you'll be in this cycle of push-pull. And this is the thing you need to stop. This is what I call the reset. And that's why if you broke up recently with an avoidant, it's important to have a phase of no contact. That doesn't guarantee that you're going to get back together, but it's a requirement should you want to reset things with this person. Understand that it's not about you. If they need space, if they need time, it's not about you, it's about their wounds. As an avoidant, if I push my partner away, it's not because I don't love this person, it's because I feel threatened. It's very much unconscious. I feel scared, and my coping mechanism is to push people away so I can be on my own. Okay, so my protection, the way I protect myself, is to push people away. Is it the right way to cope with things? No. And that's what you have to assess, is whether this person is at some stage realizing that it's not the healthy way to cope with with difficult situations with their partner. So of course, there are elements as part of this no contact, as part of if you've been broken up for a bit, understand your role, understand what happened, what you said, understand your needs. If you have to start again, what do you need in this relationship? What do you need from them? Understand your boundaries. How can you communicate the things that you don't accept? The things that you need in the relationship? Where do you draw the line? Now, something needs to change, obviously. People sometimes, they re-engage, they are not aware of what's going on. And then they call me and say like, oh, it's been like 4 times we broke up. Okay, what have you changed? Well, nothing. We just like get back together. It's passionate again. And then after a few weeks, he or she disappears. Okay, what happened? And then you can look at the thread of the history of the relationship, and it's always the same thing. So it's about changing the pattern, diffusing the cycle, and then repairing and rebuilding almost from scratch. So that's why there's a first stage on your part, which is around awareness and around self-development. So take time to reflect on the patterns, whether not only for... And that's why you need to look after awareness and self-development on your part. Take some time to reflect on the patterns of this relationship and probably other relationships. So there's a tool that I use with my clients, relationship inventory, where we look at all the relationships because usually we are attracted to the same kind of partners. And if they are very different, it's very important as well to understand what makes it different. How did you feel differently from one relationship to another? Then there's an element of managing your emotions. If you're stressed, if you have an anxious attachment style and you're stressed, and you feel that when you're stressed, you will cling, you will pressure, you will what we call display protest behaviors, you will you will trigger your partner and they will deactivate their attachment style, and we're back into this cycle. And this is why it's important to have another layer on the attachment wounds. Basically, developing a secure attachment style. So maybe you're watching this and you have a secure attachment style, and a lot of people have a secure attachment style, then they date an avoidant and they feel completely the world upside down. It's because you have insecurities, like anyone. And it's a question of how can we reframe cognitively those insecurities and make sure that we create the right, what we call working models, secure working models in our relationship. And also, along with those three elements, is self-confidence. It's about being self-centered. It's about focusing on your life, not focusing on your ex, not focusing on your partner, not focusing on the relationship. The first relationship, the only relationship that matters right now, is the relationship with yourself. So those three things are very important. Emotions, cognitive reprisal around attachment, and the confidence element. So the most common ways people reset is either you're upset, you're frustrated, and you pressure your partner because you don't want this to happen again, right? So you express your needs, your boundaries right at the beginning because you want your needs to be met. It's logic. It's potentially the right way to do it, but that doesn't work with an avoidant because when you do this, they will feel triggered. They wouldn't have the emotional bandwidth to digest this, to reflect, to respond to this, and will walk away. Second approach that I see quite often as well is you're so scared of being abandoned, you put your partner on a pedestal that you forget about yourself. So you would say yes to everything. You would accommodate. You will be a people pleaser, right? And you will, the image is a bit strong, but like kind of a doormat of like whatever it takes so he doesn't disappear, so she doesn't pull back. What happens is this doesn't guarantee that they won't pull back. And that will also create a dynamic where you're in a relationship as someone who's not really yourself. You don't want to be in a relationship where you can't be yourself. You don't want to be in a relationship where you don't have a voice. So how can we find the right balance between being assertive, expressing our needs, and being a people pleaser? The way I look at it is rather than looking at this is a moment, this is a time where everything needs to be solved, it's more of a process. So a lot of the time people think like it's by sending this letter, it's by having this coffee date, that we're going to solve everything, that we're going to actually get back together. That doesn't work like this. It's a process and you need to guide your avoidant partner throughout the process, step by step, adding a layer of intimacy, adding a layer of commitment, week by week, and ensure throughout the process, because you would have developed a secure attachment style, that this person is responding favorably, positively. So my advice is to make it time-bounded, because you don't want to be adapting, investing, working on things for a year. The point is to gain clarity as quickly as possible. My view is that 12 to 16 weeks is plenty of time to really assess things with your partner. And I'm a bit obsessed about that, but it's important, this element of assessment. So a lot of people, they assess, we had this date, that was amazing, we project, we're back together. And then week after, their partner is a bit cold, it's a bit distant, okay, they are pulling back, it's not gonna work. It's really looking at the trajectory. It's really looking at zooming out, making sure that you gather enough insight, enough data to be able to make a conclusion and take a decision at the end, whether to repair or to walk away. So I put together 2 different graphs, and the idea is I'm trying to measure. It's scientific in a way that that's what I do with my clients, and I know it works, but it's not like based on years and dozen studies. It's really the experimental thing. The element is having a threshold, and that's why it's important to be aware of what you need, to be aware of your boundaries. That threshold of the ideal relationship, of the non-negotiable, is not something you should express, deploy at the beginning. Okay? You create, first of all, an element of safety for the avoidant partner. Once they feel safe, then you can increase the level of intimacy. And your job is to assess whether they're opening up, whether they take accountability, whether you're finally not the only one investing. So yes, at the beginning of this process, you're the one taking the lead. Maybe they broke the contact and they're in touch with you. Okay, now you're leading the way. Now you're the role model. Now that you're showing them how a secure relationship would look like. And you wait and see. And you assess. And you let them take the lead in terms of opening, in terms of discussing things, in terms of sharing their insecurities, sharing why they do things in a certain way, what scares them about the future, etc., etc. So it's really about investigating the situation. So that's what I do with my clients. Sometimes I feel like I'm a journalist. I'm not a therapist, I'm a journalist, where we need to challenge what's going on. We need to investigate. We need to really peel the onion and figure out with our partner what's going on. And by doing that, you connect at the same level. This is how you can fix and repair things. Otherwise, if you remain very superficial, just expressing your needs, just pressuring your partner, you will end up again in this dynamic of, I can't give you what you want. This is too much for me. And I'd rather pull away. I'd rather be miserable and alone than doing this work. So it's a way for you to bring that person on a journey and be very clear. If despite the effort, if despite the investment in myself, in the relationship, I don't see any changes, I see that we are starting again with the same patterns again and again, this is where you need to walk away. That's very important, because the challenge people have is they walk away without doing the work. So they are very anxious, they reproduce the same patterns on the end, and things don't work. Or they are very secure, but they're still thinking about the relationship. They are very patient. I don't have any patience with your ex. I have patience with my clients, not with their partners. So the point is, okay, you need to be you're the adult in the room. You need to expect your partner to also be the adult, to show you. That doesn't mean that in 12 weeks you'll be together. It means that within 12 weeks, you should have enough confidence that this person is willing to repair. This person is in your team. And if you want some guidance on this, have a look in the description. I will open the application for my upcoming program, 12 weeks to clear the fog and know whether this relationship can make sense. It's not about getting your ex back. It's about repairing. It's about making the right decision for you, because maybe at the end of the process, you'll figure out this is not the right relationship. And you will finally be able to move on because you know you've done your best, because you know you've created a secure base with this person. And despite all of this effort, they're not responding. They are still kind of the unhealed inner child, and they don't want to do the work. And you accept that that's not your role to do the work. So that could be one option. The option is, okay, by actually being the role model, they respond positively. So most of the case, people react positively because they have feelings, because they want to connect, because, as I said, we are in love with being in love. Just the point is just to show them that it doesn't have to be as complex, as difficult as they assumed. And by doing that, they are able to repair and reconnect with you. Have a look in the description. There's a link to book a call with me, a limited space because it's summertime and I have limited availabilities. But have a look. And if you have any questions on this, let me know in the comment section. Take care.